If you're a boxing fan and never want to miss a fight, Boxing Showtime is the app you need. This is a professional boxing schedule in your pocket that keeps you up to date on what's going on in the world of boxing. Download now.
Alright people, midweek report time. Before we talk about the boxing, just unreal. 14,000 subscribers we hit the other day. Crazy. And we're not far off hitting 14,300. So hopefully we can coast with time to spare to 15k. Be lovely. But just again, massive thank you. I'll say at the start of the video, absolute massive thank you to everyone who has, come over, especially over the last week. It's been amazing. And just reading the comments, especially on the post I did, just honestly cannot emphasize enough how much I appreciate it. Let's talk boxing. It's been all really Tyson Fury this week, and there's other things we need to talk about in the world of boxing. Plenty of other things as well. There's some Showtime stuff going on. There is obviously the fight that's happening this weekend in Monaco. I never liked the Monaco cards, truth be told. I never liked them for a variety of reasons, and this card doesn't look amazing. But it's not even just the fact that you can have a card on paper that doesn't look good, but it actually turns out to be a decent card. But I always found the Monaco shows, oh my days. Look, I get the concept. It's a nice concept, in fairness. The south of, Monaco is the principality. The casinos everywhere. It's full of rich people. I think you're in one of the main casinos. I think you're in the Casino Square where the corner in F1 is. I think that's the one they use. But it's just so dead in there. It's just such a dead atmosphere. It's just rich people who are, there's no atmosphere. People say Saudi, there's really no atmosphere in these Monaco shows. And I think it brings the fights down, I think, because we've seen some stinkers over there over the last few years when they were running the shows. So I know there's a card on this weekend. I'm not holding out much hope for it. If it could catch fire, you never know. But I just think that atmosphere I get the concept, I get it, but Eddie Hearn, right? He two concepts that were kind of standalone to Matchroom, which was the Monaco shows and Fight Camp. I much preferred Fight Camp. That concept there is way better. I know he's not going to, I suppose he was charging dear but I get why he's not doing it, right? I get it. And logistically, it's not the easiest to put a show on in your back garden. But I like the Fight Camp concept better than the Monaco ones, just for me. Just seemed just more fun. Just seemed better. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's talk about the main news. And it is main news because it's broken in the last couple of days. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk for the WBC, IBF and WBO world title is set to take place sometime in February during Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia. Now, I've seen a few people online speculate that the date is likely, if it's going to be in February, is the 17th, because the last 2 weeks, or it might be the first week or thereabouts. So basically, there's a couple of events on in Saudi Arabia in the month of February. So a lot of people are speculating 17th of February, which is a Saturday, is the only realistic date you could do in February, because there's other events. There's a UFC card on, and there might be something else as well. Because obviously Riyadh season, a lot goes on. The WWE have a show on there coming up, part of Riyadh season as well. So it's not just exclusively boxing. They do a lot of things. So Fury Usyk, February. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are saying, gee, we're not holding out much hope on it. And look, I 100% get it, right? I do. I 100% can sympathize with you. I get what you're saying. I'm not getting excited. I do genuinely, hand on heart, believe that this fight will take place. I really, truly do. Now, if it doesn't, it could be Alexander Usyk who pulls out. You never know. He could be the one who goes in another direction. But he hasn't got a history of that. And as I've said several times on here, when it comes to people like Dylan White and Jarrell Miller failing PED test, a tree is known by its fruits. Tyson Fury has moved the goalpost on this fight and other fights. He said he's going to fight people and then not fought them for years later. He has a history of it. On this occasion, I think the fact that it is signed is obviously a good thing. The only way around it is if you retire. So obviously, he could do that, but I doubt it. I think he's backed himself into a corner with this fight, so he has to take it. Look, I've no doubt in my mind that Tyson Fury, when he fights Usyk, I'm going to say when, right, he will be much better than he was against Ngannou. much better. I think he will. But enough to beat Alexander Usyk. Look, I would have picked Tyson Fury pre-Ngannou. But I think that some of the things I've seen in there, I don't think you can reverse them in a training camp. And with Tyson Fury and Alan Babbage saying that he's got injuries, when you look at the way Fury trains, right, and he certainly does train, given he does, but he is someone who does a lot of road work, right? And road work is tremendous. Like, anyone tell road work's tremendous. It is. But when you're 6'8", 6'9", the best part of 300 pounds, that's where the road work's going to get problematic. Because for someone who is, say, 6 foot, 170 pounds, in shape, its impact on your knees still, but it's nowhere near as great as if you're someone of Tyson Fury's dimensions. Vladimir Klitschko, throughout his career, never really did road work. He was more a swimmer. Why? Because swimming is very low impact. It's still physical swimming, right? But it's very low impact, next to none really. And for someone, again, similar dimensions to Tyson Fury, not as heavy, but similar height, weighs around the 240s, 250s. If he spent a decade running, doing long distance runs, you're going to have so many injuries. Your knee is going to be absolutely gone. And I wonder, is that one of the reasons? Obviously, as well, you got to factor in the lifestyle. But I think is that one of the other reasons, the fact that his training is kind of conducive to a man more normal built, the average built, rather than someone 6'8", 6'9", best part of 300 pounds. I'm going a bit off on a tangent there. But Usyk Fury for February, I'm going to go out and say I think we're going to get it. I do. If I'm wrong, so be it. I've no problem saying if I'm wrong and we don't get Fury Usyk, so be it. But I think that we will. I genuinely, hand on my heart, think we will end up getting that fight. In terms of fights that other promoters are talking about, Eddie Hearn was on MMA Fighting and he said, now I'm thinking Joshua versus Ngannou, perhaps in Africa, Rumble in the Jungle 2, one of the biggest fights in the history of sport, and I promise you this, respect to Francis Ngannou, easy work for my man. Yeah, he was saying that Joshua now beats Fury in 6 rounds and that he beats Ngannou in 3. I'm just gonna, I know different style, but did you see AJ against Hellenius? Hearn, in fact, you were there, you were ringside. Did you see him against Jermaine Franklin? Again, different style, but AJ was afraid to let any shots go in those fights. Against someone like Ngannou, and look, I'm not saying I pick AJ over Ngannou, but to think he'd just go in and just be boom bam, see you later, hell no. And someone like Ngannou, strong, durable, hits hard, seems to take a good shot. That is someone who just, you don't want AJ, you'd trust him to beat Ngannou, but you wouldn't put your life on it, put it like that, with the way he's been lately, because that type of style is the type of style that he just would not like. So Eddie Hearn saying that AJ is going to do X, Y, and Z, he's the promoter, of course he's going to say that. If you said to Eddie Hearn, AJ Usyk 3, AJ by KO, he's not going to go against his man. So when people get up in arms and they're like, Eddie Hearn, blah, 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 it's like, he's the promoter. That's all. I'm sure deep down, does he really believe that? I doubt it. Right? I'm sure, would he like to see that? Yeah. Would he like to get in a Ngannou fight? I'm sure he would. But look, at the end of the day, that is what a promoter's job is to do. I want to see Joshua versus Wilder. That's the fight I want to be seeing. And that's the fight that Joshua seems to mention a little bit more than Eddie Hearn. That's the fight I want to see. Joshua Wilder. Let's get it on next year. Francis Ngannou has stated that he intends to return for his next fight in March or February. Ngannou is with PFL, which is an MMA, but honestly, and Frank Warren has said he's had conversations with Ngannou. I reckon the Saudis will put money up for Ngannou against someone like a Takam or someone like that. And to be honest with you, I'd like to see him against someone like Carlos Takam, especially that being all Cameroonian affair. I believe Takam is originally Cameroonian, and as is Ngannou, so that would do, and both spend time in France. So I'd love to see that fight. It would give a good indication as to where Ngannou is in the world of boxing, in terms of, is he kind of just outside the top 10 or could he do anything? Because Carlos Takam is a noted tough man. He might be in his 40s, but Takam is tough. He always comes to fight. He's incredibly strong. it was quite impressive what Martin Bakole did, really. It genuinely was, when you look at the guys who Takam has been in there with, and even some of the guys he's lost to. He's given these guys tough nights. I mean, Arslanbek Makhmadov went the distance with him. Joe Joyce, he was landing shots on Joe Joyce before he got overwhelmed. But Takam gives guys very tough nights. For him to get taken out quickly, 4 rounds quickly, by Bakole, who was 300 pounds and was looking slow, certainly in terms of foot speed, that was impressive by Bakole. I really hope now we get to see a more in shape Bakole moving forward, and he can get, because put it like this, right? Joe Parker fought on that undercard. I know we're talking about Ngannou, we're talking about Bakole, but Joe Parker fought on that undercard. An in shape Bakole, 100% I'm picking, 110% I'm picking an in shape. And Bakole's never been in shape, as in he's never been ripped, but 20 pounds, 30 pounds lighter, good shape, bit more speed in the foot. Every day I'm picking him over Joe Parker. Every single day. Every day. I wouldn't even mind seeing him against Michael Hunter again, because, against Michael Hunter back in 2018, that wasn't the York call. He picked up an injury in that fight, but he was losing the fight nonetheless. And he did capitulate. I know he had an injury, to be fair. So, you can understand someone wanting to, pull out if it's a bad injury. I think it was a dislocated shoulder or something to do with a shoulder on that night. But it's weird the way their careers have gone, because that was a loss, and Bakole was being really touted at the time. He's built his way back. Michael Hunter, he's kind of done the opposite, where people were myself included, really excited to see how Hunter gets on a heavyweight. He adds a different element in there. He's fast. He's got decent power. He's probably a harder puncher pound for pound than Alexander Usyk. And now just the will, the hunger is just gone. He got his money from Triller. And what? Now it's just Michael Hunter I'd say he's there for the taking. I'll admit, Hughie Fury did F him around last year. That's twice that fight got pushed back and then it just got scrapped. But the hunger in general just seems lacking from Michael Hunter at this stage. It really does. It really does. Now, here's an interesting one. Eddie Hearn also declared that Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn is imminent for late to mid-January in the UK. Alright, that is stemming from the fact that the British Boxing Board of Control, their appeal against Conor Benn's, suspension being lifted, that's set to take place. I don't know if it's to take place or what's going on with the month of January. So, God knows what will happen there. He was talking about doing that fight on December the 23rd, which now frees up a date. So, you never know. Someone like Anthony Joshua has been saying he wants to have a fight in December. I mean, we're only just into November. We're into November now. He's in camp with Derek James. Would they do an 0-2 date on the Saturday? The 23rd of December. Saturday, Christmas Eve on Sunday, Christmas Day Monday. And then Inoue versus Tapalo, I think is how you say his name, or however you say his name, on the Tuesday. Be a nice, because Christmas for boxing, normally we wind down. I'd be full steam ahead. I'd be doing a watch along on the Saturday, and I'd be doing another watch along on the Tuesday. I'd be flat out. So I'd be happy. I would take that, I love talking boxing, as you know. I love doing videos. And at Christmas, it's always not much to talk about. There will be if we have these. And I'll be definitely happy to talk as much boxing as I can over the Christmas. It does free up a date for Anthony Joshua. Who would he fight? Because there is talk he's going to have a fight before Wilder. I've heard the name Kabayel be mentioned, Ajay Kabayel. And I wouldn't like to see that fight for a variety of reasons, right? One, if I'm matchmaking Joshua and I am planning on fighting Deontay Wilder, why the hell am I fighting someone like Kabayel? It's completely polar opposite to what I'd get from Deontay Wilder. And second of all, if I'm a bit worried about my fighter, if I'm thinking, look, mentally he's not where he needs to be, I want him to look devastating. I want him to go in there against someone who he should beat. And not just beat him, but just take his head clean off. Be gone, devastate. You're not going to get that against Kabayel. It is going to be an absolute stinker. Because he's a negative fighter. It would stink the place out. If it turned into a boxing match, the fans wouldn't be happy with it. I could see 12 round, 118, 110 across all scorecards, the Anthony Joshua type fight. And that just won't, it just won't do anything. Caballel is better than the Helleniuses and the Franklin against Caballel, God knows what might happen there, but it just wouldn't do anything, I don't believe, for Joshua. And at the end of the day, people would say, well, Caballel, they might remember him from Chisora. That was 6 years ago. I know it's a quick, but that was still 6 years ago. I'd say most people have forgotten about that by now. So that's the situation there. Andy Ruiz revealed he's undergone surgery for a minor setback, but is now in the gym training again. He says 2024 is my year. I doubt that very much, because you've had 2 fights since you lost to Joshua nearly 4 years ago, and 2021 was to be your year. You had 1 fight against Areola and you didn't fight until September of last year. You've had no fights in the calendar year of this year, and you're in the gym saying you're going to be training for a big year next year. At the end of the day, Ruiz, I think the hunger left the minute. And the hunger would have left regardless of the result of the first Joshua fight. Had he lost that fight, the hunger would have left Andy Ruiz, because he would have got paid a career high payday of a couple of mil. You add the Saudi money on top of that he got for the rematch. That guy has no hunger for boxing. You can see he's no hunger for it. And which is sad, because he actually is a very, very useful heavyweight. Andy Ruiz, 235, he is dangerous. A serious threat to any heavyweight. I'm telling you now, serious threat. But he's demotivated like hell. And honestly, I know financially it's not really viable if you're a promoter to do this. But I look at someone like Big Baby Anderson and I think, okay, we've confidence in you, Bob Arum and Top Rank. Would we do it in 2024? Problem is, you would have to pay Ruiz crazy money that not only will the show not recoup, the next probably 4 or 5 Jared Anderson shows wouldn't even be able to recoup the money you're going to pay for Andy Ruiz. So there's that. Now, Billy Joe Saunders has revealed that he is set to return on the undercard of Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, which is set to take place in January. That's interesting, because there was talk of him fighting in the month of December. Obviously, that's not going to happen now, if that's believed to be true. So Billy Joe making his comeback. Apparently he's going to make his comeback at light heavyweight with the view of working his way down to 160. If Conor Benn and Eubank, that fight happens, it's a no-brainer if you're Eddie Hearn. If you're Eddie Hearn and you have Billy Joe, I think Billy Joe is going to look absolutely abysmal against whoever he fights in his comeback. And I think that Billy Joe is probably going to be shot to pieces, because he's lived, God knows what he's done the last 2.5 years. I don't even want to think about what he's been doing the last 2.5 years outside the ring. So that guy's body is going to be absolutely shot to pieces, and he's had to lose an awful lot of weight when he comes back. If Eubank Jr. beats Conor Benn, and I expect him to beat Conor Benn, you've got a rematch, you've got beef, and if you're Eubank Jr., Eubank Jr. will... If we were talking about the Billy Joe who fought Lemieux, or even Billy Joe in 2019, he beats Eubank. He schools him again. Even though the first fight was competitive, he schools him again. Eubank will light Billy Joe up like a Christmas tree, because I think Billy Joe is going to be shot to pieces. I don't think he's going to even have his legs for more than a couple of rounds anymore. I would say Billy Joe, you might see him move okay for the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then those legs are going to be gone, shot to pieces. That's what I think. I think he's only going to have legs for about 3 rounds, I reckon. Now, the Dave Benavidez Demetrius Andre undercard is taking shape. Hector Luis Garcia versus Lamont Roach. Okay, all right. Hector Luis Garcia, he's all right. One of my favorite fighters, Subriel Mateus. I'm not going to butcher the name of the opponent. We know who he's fighting. Oh my God, I always look forward to a Subriel Mateus fight. The guy is absolutely... that guy, if you haven't seen Subriel Mateus versus Jeremiah Ponce, happened this year, happened during the summer. Honestly, it was the first round, Ponce really threw everything at Subriel Mateus. He didn't budge, and then he went to beat the living crap out of Jeremiah Ponce. Mateus is just so entertaining. He hits so hard. He's just unbelievable value for money as Subriel Mateus. And it's just sad that no one mentions him. I mean, he's the IBF champion, and if he didn't have a title, he'd be just frozen out. Because this guy is absolutely lethal. He really is. And anytime there's a Super Matthias fight, you just have to watch it. He is that much fun to watch. And he is a good fighter. And Jamal Charlo versus Jose Benavidez Jr. on that undercard. Charlo making his first fight in over 2 years, still WBC champion. Is that even going to be for the WBC title? Or is it going to be at 168? Benavidez got knocked out in the 12th round by Terence Crawford at 147 pounds. That just puts that in context for you, right? That just puts that in context for you, all right? What else do we have? Showtime have reportedly now scrapped their plans for a final pay-per-view fight on our show on December the 9th and will instead stage one last non-pay-per-view show in Minneapolis before shutting down. It's claimed that David Morrell will headline. Now, we like David Morrell on here. He's a very, very, very good fighter. So he is reportedly going to headline Showtime's last show. What happened to Keith Thurman versus Stanionis? I don't know if that was going to be the headline act. I think it was going to be a Floyd pay-per-view. So is that fight scrapped now, Stanionis versus Thurman? Or will they just move that fight forward to be... Well, I was going to say, you probably put on the other thing. So Showtime kind of going off with one more show, one more pay-per-view show, and then one more standard show, and then that's it, apparently, unless it's a big Canelo fight. Sad to see. I have to say sad to see, but to some extent understandable. You know, Eddie Hearn mentioned in a recent interview with TalkSport a couple of weeks ago that he has to... Or fighters in general are being overpaid. And look, I understand... And I like seeing fighters get overpaid. Understand that. I do like seeing it. But, because, you know, they deserve it. But at the same time, it's a business. And you have to look at it from a business point of view. You can't be paying someone like, and I'm just going to use him as an example, Jack Cattrall, 7 figures, when he can't even fill out a smallish arena. It just doesn't make logical sense. You know, if that show is going to take an L, but you're paying crazy money, I'm just using him as an analogy, I should say. Not saying that's the case. Or I don't know how much he got paid for his last fight. But if you fighters who are being paid way more than they're worth in terms of the pulling power that they have, it's going to be understandable that promoters are going to be saying, the hell with this, we're going to pay you what you're worth. And it's understandable that networks are going to start pulling out because they're like, we're taking L's left, right, and centre here. What's the point? We're business. We're trying to make money. And the last few years, across the board, have been very difficult for businesses, big and large, because of, you know what, the restrictions and stuff that was placed on them. And, you know, now they're at a stage where they're like, we need to make a profit because we've lost money, especially in 2020. And then we need to make it. And we're not. And these fighters are getting crazy money and we're not seeing a return. So I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I can 100% understand where Hearn's coming from and saying that. And look, I think Hearn, I think it really hit him when basically he had done a good job on Lawrence Okolie. He'd given him some big paydays. He got him a world title. And Okolie stinking the joint out twice on Eddie Hearn shows. For Eddie Hearn to go and say, look, we've been overpaying some of these guys. We're going to pay you X amount of money now. Okolie just threw his toys out the pram, went to boxer. And how did that go? How did that go? Not well. And speaking of Hearn, he actually revealed that Dmitry Bivol's next fight is being eyed for January the 13th in Las Vegas, the same night as Artur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith. That fight, Beterbiev versus Smith, will be on Sky Sports. It's a top-ranked show. They have the right to top-ranked cards in the UK. So he's going to be doing a Vegas date with Dmitry Bivol with a view of making the undisputed fight. I hope so. The problem I have with the undisputed fight, now it's not necessarily a problem, it's a nitpick, is that Beterbiev is pushing 40 and I don't think he's at his best anymore. I think he's going to be good enough to beat Callum Smith, but Bivol at this point, peak Beterbiev, peak Bivol, I'd probably take Beterbiev, but now in 2023, going to 2024, I'm going Bivol every single day in that fight. Every day. Now, I know there is the issue with the WBC, Sullivan in his infinite... Well, certainly, there's a word, but it ain't wisdom, saying that because of where Dmitry Bivol's from, he won't sanction fighters from that country to fight for the title, which is completely stupid and completely unnecessary and just a stupid, pathetic, pointless virtue signal that benefits no one. It's meant for anyone. But I'm hoping that because of the fact that I think they were speaking at the Fury versus Ngannou fight. He's going to relax that. I think that there was another organisation that did something similar, but they relaxed all that. So hopefully that's coming next, and we can get Undisputed. We should have had it this year, really, because I think that if Bivol had been able to fight, we might have got it this year. But hopefully we will get it next year at light heavyweight. Yes, I want to see them at their best, but I'd still like to see them nonetheless. I'd like to see them nonetheless, and just to see where they're at. So that's my thoughts. This has gone on a bit longer than I thought it would have. Lads, I will leave it there as the mic just comes off. So that's an indication to end it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Might leave Friday. Might take a break tomorrow from recording and just chill for the evening unless some news comes up. So I might talk to you Saturday. I will talk more about boxing then. I'll leave it, people. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe. Peace.